everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a video that I'm so excited about. I'm going to be talking about my top 10 progressive rock albums. I've spoken about my love for prog a few times on this channel, but I really just wanted to do like a dedicated video to it and just chat a bit more about the world of progressive rock with you guys in the comments. It's such an incredible and interesting genre of music, so as always, please leave any recommendations you've got for me or tell me your top 10 prog rock albums in the comments. And yeah, these are in no particular order. I do have one favourite, but the rest are kind of like at the same level. So I got into prog a few years ago, but not really properly. I think it's one of those genres where you really need to kind of sit down with the music and just listen to it on vinyl, listen to it in headphones. Just spend like some actual time listening to it, which I didn't really do when I first got into it. My first introduction to prog was through albums like Atom Heart Mother and Animals by Pink Floyd. And then one day I just decided to listen to In the Court of the Crimson King, and then moved on to things like Nursery Crime by Genesis, and then Selling England by the Pound by Genesis, and then Tarkus, and then Close to the Edge, and then all that kind of the classic prog albums. And then I delved more into bands like Rush and Gentle Giant and Camel and Van der Graaf Generator and Jethro, Tull, and the rest is history. And now I'm sitting here with my top 10 prog albums for this video, so I'm just gonna get on with it. Okay, first up is an album that I've spoken about a couple of times on this channel before, so I thought I'd just get that one out of the way. It's Nursery Crime by Genesis. It was either gonna be this or Selling England by the Pound, but I think I've had to go with Nursery Crime just because it was the first Genesis album I ever heard, so it has like a really special place in my heart. It was one that I fell in love with the very first time I heard it. It didn't need any time to grow on me whatsoever. After like listening to like the first minute and a half of the musical box, I was like, yep. And I've heard a lot of people say that about this album. I feel like it's one that like gets people on the first listen, probably because the musical box is literally one of the best prog songs ever recorded. I could literally listen to the musical box like every single second of every day and not get bored of it. That final like crescendo is just crazy, and then the return of the giant hogweed is another classic. The way that song starts just gets me every time, and I love the wacky lyrics and that iconic keyboard from Tony Banks. I just can't believe that like all of the members of Genesis were younger than me when this album came out, and I can't even put a wash on properly. Just crazy to think about. But yeah, my first pick is Nursery Crime. So my second choice is another one that was love at first listen for me, and it's one that I still am currently listening to like every single day. I've just listened to it now before I started this video. My boyfriend is getting really annoyed with it, but it is Mirage by Camel. Another one I've spoken about before on my channel, but again, just a true masterpiece. The songs work so well together, it's extremely cohesive, and although I love the 3 shorter songs on the album, it's definitely the 2 longer ones that steal the show. I'm not sure if I'd call them epics. Nimrod is like 9 minutes long and Lady Fantasy is about 12 minutes long, but nevertheless these 2 songs are just incredible. Nimrod is about Gandalf from Lord of the... I've just realised I'm wearing my Lord of the Rings shirt, and this was genuinely not planned. But yeah, the whole thing is very like Lord of the Ringsy. There's some keyboards that start about 4 minutes 25 into the song Nimrod that I am obsessed with. I'll just show you. Yeah, you get the gist. I just cannot get enough of that. And Lady Fantasy is one of my favourite songs of all time. Andy Latimer's guitar tone is gorgeous. I love the guitar solos, and I love like the last minute and a half of the song when the melody from the start of the song comes back, but it's like way more epic. And I think this is a great album if you're just getting into prog, because it's quite easy to listen to and it's quite accessible and melodic. So yeah, Mirage by Camel would highly recommend. Next up is a pretty obvious pick, and one that like is on everyone's list, and I've spoken about it loads of times before. Animals by Pink Floyd. As I said, I have spoken about this one like genuinely this must be the 6th or 7th time now on this channel, so I'm not going to go into it too much. But it is my favourite album by Pink Floyd and my second favourite album of all time after The Fragile by 9 Inch Nails. But anyway, there is not like a dull moment on this album. This is one that like my boyfriend, who's not into prog at all, still really enjoys and still loves listening to. The concept is really strong. The lyrics are quite bleak but relatable, which make this album just completely timeless. And musically, obviously it's Pink Floyd, so it's going to be top notch. David's guitar tone in Dogs is amazing. Roger's vocal delivery in Sheep. I just love everything about this album. Like, it takes you on such a journey. I love how like kind of dark and haunting it is. It's one of those where like I can't listen to the song separately. I have to listen to it as like one piece, because it is just that good. So my fourth pick was a tricky one. I knew that I couldn't do this video without talking about an album by King Crimson, but when it came to choosing my favourite King Crimson album, I really could not decide. I love In the Court of the Crimson King. I really love Lark's Tongues and Aspic, but in the end I just had to go for the album Red. After like re-listening to them all, I just had to choose Red because of how like dark and moody it is. Every track is different from the other, but they all just work so well together. The theme is like really coherent. My two favourite songs are probably Fallen Angel and then Starless. I love Fallen Angel so much. It starts off really like slow and ominous, and then Robert Fripp's guitar is so like smooth and melodic, and then this chorus just comes crashing in, and I just really love that like vibe. It's great. And obviously the song Starless is one that is very well loved in the prog community, and rightly so, because it's absolutely beautiful. The opening guitar, like little mini solo or whatever, like just blows me away every time I hear it. It makes me like feel so emotional. The musicianship on this album is obviously with a prog album. It is insane. But this song in particular is just incredible. Like the last sort of minute and a half with like the saxophone and stuff is just one of my favorite like sections of music ever, and I just love the bass line, and I just think it's like a great way to end the album. Next up is the most recent addition to this list, Thick as a Brick by Jethro Tull. This is definitely my favorite Jethro album. I cannot get enough of it at the moment. I love how it's just one long 43-minute long epic. It's never boring, and it keeps you engaged for like the whole time with all the ebbs and flows and different instruments that are being used, and like the returning melodies and stuff. Like, I love all of that, and I love the folk element of the album as well. I love Ian Anderson's flute playing. It's such a highlight, and it makes the album so interesting, and I just love this one little melody. Let me show you this bit. That is like my favourite bit of the whole song. I love all the tempo changes throughout the different sections, and then like the satirical and sort of jokey lyrics and the whole like anti-concept album thing. So my sixth pick, I'm going to talk about something a little bit more modern, but I think it's just as good as anything that was released in the golden prog era in the 70s. Fear of a Blank Planet by Porcupine Tree. I am so grateful that I discovered this album. I'd seen the album cover on various like prog like top 10 lists or whatever, but I hadn't listened to it for a while. And then one night I couldn't sleep, and it was like 4:30 in the morning, so I just put my earphones in and I was just like listening to music and stuff, and then I decided to listen to Fear of a Blank Planet. I have no idea why I decided to listen to it at 4:30 in the morning, but that was how I heard it for the first time. And I don't know if it was because it was like dark and early in the morning, it just felt like I was the only person in the world that was awake, or it was just the general vibe of the album, or a culmination of all those things. But it made me feel so like uncomfortable and uneasy when I first listened to it, and I absolutely love it when music makes me feel like that. It usually means I'm gonna really love an album. It reminded me of the first time that I listened to The Downward Spiral by 9 Inch Nails, and honestly there are certain aspects of this album that remind me of certain 9 Inch Nails songs, and I'm pretty sure that this album came out within the same few weeks as Year Zero, which is pretty cool because I love Year Zero as well. But yeah, anyway, I think Fear of a Blank Planet is like an absolute masterpiece. The concept is super dark and unsettling, and the music really reflects that. It's so dark and haunting and emotional, and I love the epic. And honestly, hearing this album for the first time was like a big moment in my life. It was kind of like hearing The Dark Side of the Moon for the first time. Oh, it's just so good. Like, my favorite song from Fear of a Blank Planet is probably Way Out of Here, but I love the whole thing. And yeah, I just love this album with all my heart. Okay, so let's talk Yes. One of the classic prog bands, one of the most well-loved prog bands. So of course I was going to include them in this video. I wasn't sure which album to include because they've got a few that I love, and it was very nearly close to the edge, but in the end I've decided to go with the Yes album. I don't know why, like, as much as I really enjoy Close to the Edge and Fragile, for some reason like the Yes album has always just really stuck with me. Maybe it was the first one I heard, so maybe that's why. And I have been re-listening to it recently, so it's very much like at the forefront of my mind. I like how upbeat and vibrant this album is. It's got some really catchy melodies. I don't think it's as polished as Close to the Edge or Fragile, and obviously it doesn't have a Rick Wakeman genius, but I think it's a really fun album with some amazing guitar. The end of Starship Trooper is insane. I love that song so much, and I know it's one of their most well-known songs, you know, whatever, on mainstream, but I've seen All Good People. I just love that song. It's generally just a really great album. I feel like it stood the test of time. It's fun to listen to, it puts me in a good mood, and again I think it's a great one for someone who's just getting into prog. This is another one that my boyfriend quite likes, and he's not into prog, so that's always a good sign. If you're not someone that's like into the sort of 20-minute long epics, then this is a great one. So for my 8th pick, I've got another modern prog album, and this is one of the best things that my ears have ever had the pleasure of listening to, and it is The Raven That Refused to Sing and Other Stories by Steven Wilson. Obviously I've already mentioned Porcupine Tree, but I just had to include a solo Steven Wilson album in here. This man is so talented, it's a joke. For me, like, this album could easily rival any of the 70s prog. It's definitely heavily influenced by bands like Jethro, Tull and Genesis and Yes and ELP, but it's just so different and fresh and modern. Obviously it's Steven Wilson, so the production is immaculate. This one sounds amazing on vinyl. The opening track, Luminol, takes you on such a journey. It starts off with a really loud funky bass line, and then a big loud instrumental section, and then everything sort of mellows down when the vocals come in for some beautiful piano and just haunting vocals, and then the song picks back up again and ends even better than it started. And the second track, Drive Home, is probably my favourite from the album, maybe. It has one of the best guitar sections and guitar solos that I've ever heard. I'm just baffled as to how anyone could dislike this album. It affected me so much emotionally the first time I heard it. You can just like feel the effort and passion that went into it, like come through into your earphones, and it's just a beautiful listen, and it just makes me feel very grateful to be living at the same time as Steven and be able to see him in concert potentially, because obviously I'll never be able to see any of the other artists that I've previously mentioned. So my 9th pick is going to be Hemispheres by Rush. Obviously I wanted to include one Rush album in here because they're so well loved by prog fans, and I obviously love them as well. And I think Hemispheres is one of the greatest prog albums. As much as I love 2112, I've always just slightly preferred Hemispheres. I love the opening track, the big epic. 18 minutes long, and it keeps you so engaged. The music is just stunning, and it's such like a big sound from such talented musicians. I also love the song Circumstances. It's a short one, but I'm obsessed with the guitar. The Trees is also a gorgeous song, but I think the highlight of the album for me and for the majority of people that I've seen on the internet is the final track, La Villa Strangiato, I think that's how you say it. It's a completely instrumental song, but it is very jazzy, and it builds really nicely, and it shifts from one mood to the other in like a really seamless way with great transitions. And yeah, I just love it. It's definitely the standout track for me, but the whole album is great. So I deliberated over my final pick for a while, but I have decided to go with my favourite Gentle Giant album, Three Friends. This one took a few listens to grow on me, but it is definitely my favourite album by Gentle Giant out of the ones that I've heard. It's really creative and it's a concept album, which I love. It's got loads of like great keyboards and every song is different. The song School Days is probably like the weirdest, and I didn't like it the first few times I heard it, but now I love it. The vocal harmonies are so unique, and like I love the like echoing vocals that happen throughout the song. The background melodies are really cool as well, and the guitar. And my favourite song from this album is the song Working All Day. It has some lyrics that I love. I think it's the second verse. Derek says, when I was young, I used to have illusions, dreams ain't enough. And then he says, easy to say that everybody's equal, then look around and see it ain't true. I just love that. And it's also got a really nice instrumental section in the middle, which has really nice subtle bass that I'm obsessed with. And overall, yeah, it's just an amazing album and one that I would 100% recommend to anybody. So there you have it, my top 10 progressive rock albums. There were so many others that I could have included. I know I haven't spoken about ELP or Dream Theater, and it's not that I don't like those bands, I definitely do. That's just a testament to how much I love the albums that did make it onto the list. I really hope you enjoyed it nonetheless, and please comment your favourite prog albums down below. And I'm currently working on a top 10 progressive rock epics video, which will be up in a few weeks, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. Anyway, thank you for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.